Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be trying to fix an entire collection of HO scale locomotives, all in the same video. Each of these engines has one or more problems. I haven't tried to test any of them out yet, but I've already had a quick look over each one and can tell that there's definitely a lot of problems with them. Start off here with the 040. This thing doesn't look too bad. It's definitely missing a screw because you can see all of that is in pieces. I don't know if it has any problems further than that, but that's already what we're starting off with. We got this little Athearn switcher. As far as the eyes can tell, seems okay. I can't spot anything wrong with it, but we'll have to throw it on the track and see if it has any mechanical issues internally. And then we got this thing. This is another Athearn blue box. It's a Southern Pacific F unit, and you can see that the wheels have all come apart, so it clearly has bad gears. It's actually missing a wheel right there, which is not so good. And over here we got an AHM C-liner, and this is missing the front truck. I don't know if anything else is wrong with the drive, but that's certainly not a promising start. Over here we got this lifelike engine. This one really just has cosmetic damage, plus this rear truck which doesn't seem to be hanging on, and I'm guessing that's the only problem, but we'll have to test it out. Got this Mantua Tyco Spirit of 76. I think it's just missing the weight. The wheels and everything else look pretty good, but we'll have to test it. And then finally we got a Bachmann Southern Pacific GS4, and the locomotive looks pretty much mint with the exception of the boiler cap being off it. What I'm more concerned about is what's going on with the tender over here. You can see we've got a lot of frayed wires and stuff that's disconnected. These wiring harnesses are really quite a nightmare to work on. So I'm not sure if that's going to be fixable, but we'll certainly give it a try, as with all the other engines. Anyways, let's test them out and see what's going on internally here. So I'm going to start off here with the 040's drive. Seems that we might have an electrical issue. And we definitely do have an electrical issue. There's something wrong with the brushes. So at least we know what might be going on with that. Next we got the Athearn switcher. I'm guessing there's probably something shorted or along those lines, just because again, cosmetically it looks okay. Oh. Well, it kind of runs, but there's definitely something not quite right there. My guess would be maybe the motor's dislodged. I don't know. We'll have to open it. We already know what's wrong with this, but we'll see if it will move under its own power anyhow. So it seems like the electrical system on this is junk too. Not even going to bother testing this out because it needs the front wheels for contact. I bet this one's probably going to start. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem so bad. Spirit of 76. Got a working headlight. Not much from the motor. And then finally we've got the daylight. I'm not even going to bother trying to test this thing out because I believe it needs the decoder to be wired in, which obviously that's not going to work. So we'll just leave that as is. And I guess we'll start by trying to piece this thing back together. So we'll start off by just removing this plate. I think that everything inside here is probably okay, but we'll go through and clean it all just to be sure. I'll just have a gander through the commutator, which I think is the main issue here. Yeah, I could use a bit of cleaning. I think this being poorly adjusted is causing the brush to sort of float over the commutator, so it feels like it's making much better contact now. So I'll throw the other brush back in there and we'll see if that made any difference performance-wise. That's a million times better. Let's focus in on the rest of the drive now. I find these 040's really just don't require a whole lot to get them going. Clean all the contacts, throw some fresh oil in them, and 9 times out of 10 you have a runner. If you decide to use a Q-tip on these things too, just be careful not to get any of the fibers wound around anything, because that can cause issues as well. See if I can find some sort of a screw just to really complete this thing. Let's see if this will do it. Hopefully the threads aren't stripped. Oh, heck yeah. Well, so far it seems to be running pretty well, so I think we'll just clean up the wheels and maybe try to fix a little bit of damage like that. Alright, let's see what she'll do here. Well, it's not the quietest out there, but I think we can call it a day with that one. Just 6 more to go. I'm going to be a little bit more curious to see what's gone on with this one, because I find Athearn blue boxes are generally quite reliable, but like anything, they do have a few faults, and well, the motor mounts are completely gone. So that explains why it wasn't running all that well. In fact, this clearly failed quite catastrophically. You can actually see there are some broken parts in here. That's the first time I've seen that on an Athearn. So we'll see what we can do here. I guess we'll start off by testing out the motor. My hunch is that it's probably good. Yeah, that seems to run completely fine, so it's really just the body that has a few issues. Yeah, gearboxes are turning okay. I'll go through them all just in case, but I don't think that that is really what caused this thing to fail. This is weird too, it's actually missing a post. I really wonder what happened to this engine. I don't know what kind of adhesive they used on this thing, but despite not holding the motor on very well, it doesn't seem to want to leave the chassis. Okay, that's looking a little bit better, so I think I'll move on to the trucks. Now, I noticed something interesting, which is that if you look right here, that's a much thinner gear than usual. So this thing actually has a built-in gear reduction. So if we can get this thing running, it should have incredible slow speed. Man, this engine did not have it easy. Like, look at this. It's all packed with pet dander. That is some nasty stuff there. Even some of the gears are wound with pet fur. Alright, with all that looking a lot better, I think I'll slowly start to reassemble this whole thing here. So to replace the post which was here before, I just drilled this hole. So I'll put a self-tapping screw in there and then just attach a wire to it. Should do the same job. I mean, it's not going to be factory settings, but it should be close enough. Got a couple of motor mounts here. Not really a match, but they should get the job done. So admittedly, I made a bit of a mistake while I was putting these trucks back together. I'll show you exactly what I did wrong. One of these wheel sets is narrower than the other. This larger gear is so thick that it actually binds up with the main gear there. It doesn't happen on this side because you don't have the reduction, so it needs the thinner one right here. Fortunately, these motor mounts are just struggling. They're even worse than the originals. You run out of parts, you have to get kind of creative with this stuff. The only thing that's important is that this motor is held down really well. So let's put a good healthy serving there. And we'll let that set. And I'll put some on the other side too, just so that this motor won't go anywhere. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Okay, well, this is all looking pretty good to me, so I think we'll just throw the shell on and take it over to the track. I really hope this thing starts. It's been a little bit more trouble to get it all back together, if I'm honest, but it runs. Since it's got that gear reduction, it's incredibly slow, which is why the motor's revving to like 5 grand, but the engine's hardly moving. It's got a lot of torque. And with a gear reduction like that, it's got absolutely incredible low speed. Just look at that. I can hardly tell it's moving. So yeah, I think overall, this one is a great success. On to the next one now. Hopefully this Athearn won't be as troublesome as the last one. So the problem is these gears actually split. So I think the main goal is going to be roughening up these surfaces and then roughening up the surfaces of the axle, because just like those Bachmann split frames, these are an interference fit. Generally they're pretty reliable, but it's going to work a lot better I think if there's an adhesive in there. And that right there seems about right on the money. That's rolling nicely. Got the second truck all back together, even managed to put some kind of a truck cover on it. It's not an Athearn one, but it looks better than it did before, which is I think what matters. Anyways, I'm going to clean up these surfaces because they don't look so good. Clean up any other parts that need cleaning, and then I think we can just put this thing back together and then just really hope that it starts. Let's test her out. Hey, there we go. Seems to be running. It's a little bit slow, but it sounds like it's starting to pick up the pace a bit. Current draws well within tolerance for an old Athearn, and it seems to be running pretty smooth. The only problem is there's a tiny bit of chatter in the drivetrain, I think because the gears are a slightly different size, but I think I'm happy with it. At least it's running consistently. So now we'll move on to the AHM C-liner. Now, hopefully the only problem with this locomotive is the missing front truck, because while I was looking for parts for the Athearn switcher, I actually found a replacement truck, which I think will work. Well, we'll open it up and have a look here. Actually got a set of contacts. This probably was part of the original truck. Got a bolt. This is pretty strange. It looks like it actually has a 5-pole. That's good. It should run a little bit better with that. Okay, so these are slightly different generation-wise. This is 2 wires. This one's got kind of a self-grounding body right there. So it appears the red wire is still color-coordinated despite this being a different generation of locomotive. Uh-oh. Already gone ahead and thrown a couple of self-tapping screws in here so that plate has held on nicely. So I think I'll just do some regular servicing, give some fresh oil to the motor, clean up the motor a little bit, clean up the wheels, and then hope for the best. Well, the motor seems to work. Have a quick gander through the gearbox here. Oh yeah, okay. That looks pretty clean, to be honest. So I'm gonna glue this window in. These things drive me crazy. I don't know why they didn't put any adhesive in the beginning. Truly believe this design of contact system might be the bane of my existence. There's just so many little things that can pop out of place, and they tend to wear down the brushes unevenly because these plates can kind of move around and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad the technology developed past this. Anyways, I think that is all okay, so I'll throw the shell on here and take it over to the track to see if it runs. Yeah, that looks fine. Hey, it's not too bad. See how she does forwards. Yeah, it's pretty good. Lights are flickering a little bit. I mean, it only has 4-wheel contact, but considering this thing might have been sitting for several years, it seems pretty smooth so far. Current draw is in check. And it seems like it's starting to smooth out too, so yeah, I think we can call that one a success. Next on the list, Team America. I'm gonna be really curious to see what exactly is wrong with this locomotive, because the MU2 drives tend to be very reliable. The power torques are not as good, but these older American-made ones are very solid, so it's rare you see these fail. I'm guessing that it's probably a broken wire. So this right here is supposed to be up against the brush plate, so it wasn't making contact. And that might be our only problem, honestly. Yep. It's running a little bit rough, but yeah, no problem. That was an easy fix. Still clean the commutator out and just do some oiling here and there, but like I said, these MU2 drives are very tough. I'm not surprised that it wasn't a significant problem. This probably just got bumped out of place at some point. If possible, it'd be good to oil the bearings on the motor, being careful not to get any on the commutator, of course. Seems to be practically impossible for me to open one of these things up without breaking a wire on the way. Alright, so that's all back together now. We'll focus on the weight. Hopefully the screws are not stripped out here. Yeah, it all seems fine. So we'll clean up the wheels because they could use a bit of love, and maybe try to fix some of these posts here, but other than that, I think we might have a pretty nice locomotive on our hands here. Okay, I mean, that already looks a million times better. Now let's focus in on these wheels here. Yeah, those are already looking a million times better. We'll focus in on the back ones, then I think we can probably test this out. Alright, got those back wheels all tidied up, so let's bring this thing over to the track and see if it will run. I feel pretty confident that this one's going to start on the first try. Let's see. Yeah, no problem. I love the MU2 drive, it's just so reliable. And here it's starting to quiet down too as the oil circulates throughout it. Current draw appears to be right on the money, so I think we can call it a day with that locomotive, and we'll move on to the lifelike Santa Fe. As we saw earlier, this locomotive does run, so the main goal is going to be fixing this and trying to get some of the cosmetic stuff back on it. Check out the build date on this locomotive, April 10th, 2007. So this would have been being made around the same time as my first layout was being constructed. Yeah, everything looks okay so far. I'll just quickly open this part up and see if anything is wrong here. Add a little bit of fresh oil to all of these gears and a bit to the bearings themselves. And I've already broken a wire. That seems to be a trend. But moreover, got to figure out a way to fix this. Now, I've got kind of a shade tree fix, which has worked pretty well in the past on these older lifelikes. I think I'll try it on this one, because this thing is not in great shape, so I don't think we really have all that much to lose on it. So the first thing we need to do is drill a little bit of a hole right here. Then you just get yourself a medium self-tapping screw. And then at just the right angle, you just kind of lower this in. And just like that, you've got a pretty good fix. I know there's going to be some people out there who probably don't like this kind of shade tree style, but the thing is, when you're dealing with an old lifelike like this engine is not in good shape by any means. Like, it's probably worth $5 in total, so you could do a proper repair and you could replace this whole part right here, but you'd be dumping more money than an engine like this is worth. Like, if we were talking about a hobby town or something along those lines, yeah, maybe be worth ordering some parts for it, but honestly, I've done this on some locomotives like 5 years ago, and it's still holding up. So for cheap engines like this, you know, you kind of get what you can out of them, and sometimes it will last a long time. I think the only time I'd dump significant money into a cheap engine like this is maybe if it had like some serious sentimental value. But other than that, you know, just get what you can out of them. Okay, so next up, let's see if we can sort that out. I think maybe we'll just kind of clip a few of these standards here and just kind of make it look like nothing is supposed to be there. I turned this drive over a little bit manually, and I noticed that this wheel right here is cracked and part of the flange is actually gone, so that's not going to work so well. It's definitely a source of derailments. I've seen that a couple times, so let's take this back off again, and I already found a replacement gear, which I think will work. Yeah, it's a slightly different era, you can tell by the color of the plastic there, but should work fine. Quickly polish up these back wheels, and then we'll take this thing over to the track, see how it runs. Got the wheels all polished up, they're certainly looking a lot better, and this tends to be the main thing that hinders performance on these old lifelikes. I mean, you know, they were never perfect runners, but cleaning those up can definitely help a lot. Alright, I think this fast and glorious machine is ready to hit the track for the first time in probably quite a while. Let's see if the word life is really present in this lifelike. Yes, it is. Oh, wow. That really didn't hesitate. The current draw is looking good. It's got a nice top speed. And it even kind of creep for us. Yeah, that's not so bad for a lifelike. Well, I'm very happy with that, you know. Despite these lifelikes being really junky engines, they're so easy to get going again. You really don't need much. So people can continue to hate on these lifelikes all they want, but they're still my favorite junky brand of all time. Now on to another brand which sometimes has problems. Let's see if we can get this Bachmann running. Now, hopefully there isn't anything else wrong with this locomotive. Everything on the outside appears okay, and it's one of the newer ones, so I don't think it would have split gears or anything like that. But at the moment, before we can even test it, I gotta see if we can fix this, which should be a real treat. Appears we have quite a few broken wires. We got one here. Yeah, so we got 4 broken wires in total. Not good. Looks like we got 2 screws in the back here and a clip up front, so I think if we undo these, the whole drive should pop out. Those screws both felt pretty loose, so I'm probably not the first person to have tried to fix this. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Oh, this is actually one of the Sound Equip models, too. Oh, man. So we need a replacement for that cable, because what's here is kind of crap. You know what else has 8 wires? An Ethernet cable. So what I'm thinking is we take a length of this, use all these nice color-coded wires to connect them up to the board there, and then connect them up here somehow. Some of them might even match. I did think about just pulling these pins and resoldering everything to rebuild the harness, but unfortunately this part was not the only problem. If you look at a lot of these wires, they're in terrible condition. You got sections like this where they almost look like they melted, and there's lots of other ones where there's little breaks and there's actually exposed metal, so it's really only a matter of time before the rest of this all came apart and maybe caused a short circuit or something else. Either way, I just don't think it's very reliable to have these super thin wires connecting to a board at 90 degrees where there's a lot of stress from all the flexing. So even though these are nice and low profile, I think having a hardwired system should be a little bit more reliable. I decided to do that part off camera just because I figured it was going to be long and boring, but I think I got it figured out now. Basically what I did was I traced where everything on the PCB went, and then found a matching wire for it. So they're not color coordinated, but for example, like the blue wire comes over here, crosses over the PCB, connects to the orange wire, and then once the orange wire reaches the locomotive, it connects back up to this blue wire over here. So this just serves as sort of like a linkage, but I think it's gonna work, and it should be more reliable than the original connector. So anyways, let's take this thing over to the track. We'll see if it actually works, and if it does, we'll throw the shell and everything else back on it. Okay, so we got the locomotive kind of set up on the track. We're just going to be testing out the linkage between the locomotive and the tender, which is why I don't have this on the track. So anyways, we'll see if it works here. I really don't know if this wiring job is actually going to function, but let's try it out. And that's already a good sign right there. We've got sound, so this is picking up power. The real question is, will it run? Hey, look at that! It seems fine. Let's try out reverse. I'm hearing a little bit of a ticking noise, but other than that, the drive seems pretty good. Fantastic! Let's bring this thing back over to the bench and throw the shell and everything else back on it now. Turning this thing over manually, I was able to kind of figure out what was causing the chatter. It turns out this part right here is warped, so this was moving in a funny way, so I've just disconnected it and glued this in place here so that that won't cause any more problems, just because I don't want this whole drive locking up and causing issues with the decoder. But other than that, I think we can go ahead and throw the shell and everything else back on. I already went ahead and got the faceplate back on as well, so let's just put it all back together. Also added a bit of a different hole just for these wires because they do take up a little bit more space than the original ones do. Well, it all looks pretty good. Let's take it over to the track and see if it runs as a complete unit. Alright, well, moment of truth here. Hey, it's running! Seems to be doing pretty well so far. Let's see if it will make it an entire lap. It's keeping up a pretty good top speed. Yeah, not bad at all. So at this point, I think this has been a great success. We got all 7 locomotives in operating order. So yeah, really could not be happier with that. Anyways, I think I'll finish off the video there. Thank you all so much for watching.